I struggled for 10 years. And I think the best thing that I kept coming back to that helped me through those really difficult times was the belief that this is not going to last forever. Because when you're not doing well, whether you're depressed, anxious, mentally ill, your brain tricks you so well into believing that you have always felt this way and that you will always feel this way. That is a lie. So take that. If anybody listening is going through something difficult, that is your brain lying to you. It's not going to last forever. I promise you. Things will get better. You will get through it, and you have to keep reminding yourself of that every single day.
Jessie Inchauspé. I don't know, like, how do you
Inchauspé.
I
That's the
American.
English
Okay.
version. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, the glucose goddess herself.
Thank you for having me, Christy.
We are so excited. Jessie is a French biochemist, the author of several books. And if you don't know her on Instagram, she's over 3 million followers, and she is better known as, like I said, the glucose goddess. And she has dedicated all of her time and efforts to teaching all of us about the essential role of glucose in our lives and how it can improve our health in so many different areas. That's probably an interesting thing to describe when people ask you what you do. What do you usually say when people ask?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes, so if I'm being real, I'll say like I'm an author. I write about food and how it impacts your health. But sometimes I don't want to talk about myself at all. So I'll say something like, I'm in the publishing industry. Or if I'm like traveling and I'm doing podcasts, but I don't want to tell the Uber driver that I'm here to talk about myself, I say, oh, I'm here with an author. I'm helping her on her media tour. I like, I
So
spin way off.
humble. So humble. It's just incredible how much your account has blown up and how much this whole revolution of glucose has started. How did you particularly become interested in the role of glucose in our health?
Through my personal health journey. So when I was a teenager, I had a terrible accident. I broke my back jumping off a waterfall. And then my health was very messed up for a very long time, notably my mental health. That was really the biggest thing that changed. I went from being perfectly mentally healthy to depression, anxiety, dissociations, panic attacks. I mean, I was broken. So I wanted to figure out how to feel better. And my journey, my quest, my search got me to biochemistry, then genetics, and then finally, when I discovered blood sugar and glucose, that's when I started to be able to rebuild myself. So it was really because of my own personal interest in feeling like myself again.
And why would you say people should care so much about their glucose levels?
Because most of us, even if we don't have diabetes, most of us have unsteady blood sugar levels. And this can lead to so many symptoms, from brain fog to cravings to poor energy to waking up in the middle of the night to hormonal issues, acne, psoriasis, eczema, and of course, long term, the development of conditions like type 2 diabetes. So if you want to feel better today, better in your skin, better in your life, more like yourself, and if you want to help your long term health, learning about your glucose levels is foundational.
A question that I've had since I followed your account and since I've been kind of understanding this role of glucose in my own health is why it's taken so long for us to have this research brought to life, to even pay attention. If it like from what you're saying, it really does sound like this miracle drug almost of if we can balance this, we can really improve every facet of our health. Why do you think that we kind of have ignored it up until now?
It's actually been talked about before. So, Dr. Mark Hyman, about 20 years ago, he started talking about blood sugar. I think what really the real question is, why has it not become so mainstream and pop culture and for
Yeah.
everybody and their mom, you know? Um,
Mhm.
well, I think because the specific studies that I share, they've only been around for a few years. So the studies on my hacks, for example, the food order, the vinegar, etc., these are new studies that didn't exist before. We've also had the advent of continuous glucose monitors, which are little devices that allow us to see in real time our glucose data. So as soon as you can
Mhm.
start seeing something, then it becomes much more popular, because before it was just this theory about blood sugar, it's important, yada yada. But now we're able to see what it looks like. And that has meant that it's spread on social networks like crazy. And then finally, it's only recently that we've discovered that even if you don't have diabetes, you need to be watching your glucose levels because you might still have spikes. We didn't used to know that. The medical
Yeah.
community, the scientific community had no idea just 5 years ago of this amazing discovery. So it's because it's timely.
And would you say it's because now, like, we actually know what we can do to help it more
For
so than
sure.
we ever did before?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, the career is clearly very interesting. We're very interested in your work and your science. Everyone is. But what we love asking on the show has to do with maybe your career, or maybe it has to do with your personal life or some of your experiences. But what is the best advice that you've ever gotten?
It's a piece of advice that I'm not sure applies to every situation, but in my situation, it was perfect. So, uh, after high school, I didn't know what to do with my life. I had no passions and never heard about the word glucose. Like, I was 16. I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll work in marketing. Like, I just had no clue what to do, what to study. And I was kind of good at everything. And so my stepdad told me, Jessie, when you don't know what to do the hardest thing you can. And so I decided to study mathematics because I thought that's the hardest thing I can imagine, right? And it ended up being such a good decision because it meant that I didn't close any future doors. So at 25 years old, when I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I want to work in health, I could take my math degree and do some biology stuff afterwards. Had I done marketing, I would not have been able to do that. So I think the twist on the piece of advice is try to keep as many doors open as possible when you don't really know what you want to do. Don't artificially close doors to yourself if you don't even know what door you want to go through.
Yeah, I love that. And it's almost like when you decide to do the hardest thing, people I think have said that about like task lists too. Like when you're deciding which task to do first, do the hardest one because everything else feels easy. Getting a
Yeah.
degree in mathematics, wildly difficult. So after that, everything might feel a little bit easier, which is also a plus of the advice.
It's like when you're young and you eat the vegetables first during your meal. You're like, I hate the veggies. I'm going to eat them first. That way everything is more fun, which is funny because it turns out to be one of my hacks. Eat the
I was
veggies
about to say.
first.
But it's true, then everything else tastes a little bit more delicious, probably.
Exactly.
Have I mean, your work has definitely proven that advice to be true. Have you found other times in your life other than getting your degree where you've really seen that to be helpful?
Yeah, you know when there's something that you know you should do, like you need to let go of that person, you need to have that difficult conversation with this person. Those things that you don't want to do, usually you really need to do them. So I
Yeah.
try to sometimes grab the bull by the horns and do it, but other times I'm such an ostrich and I just bury my head in the sand and I'm like, I'll deal with that's a problem for next week, Jesse, you know? But yeah, I think it's a good piece of advice. Like things that feel hard and difficult and scary are generally the ones that you need to lean into and go towards.
Absolutely. I have listened to several of your podcasts and followed along with your story, and you have talked a lot about this mental health journey that really brought you to this increased desire to learn about your body and how you could improve your health through even specifically nutrition.
Yeah.
Is there a best piece of advice, whether it be through that period of your life or a different period of your life? Is there like a biggest lesson that you learned through that really hard struggle or a really hard struggle that you've had in your life?
It's tough because I want to say yes, because of all my mental health issues, I learned this and that, and here's a perfect solution for you. And, but the truth is, the biggest thing I learned out of this was that the way I'm eating and my food and my glucose levels is impacting my mental health, right? But that was much later on. I struggled for 10 years. And I think the best thing that I kept coming back to that helped me through those really difficult times was the belief that this is not going to last forever. Because when you're not doing well, whether you're depressed, anxious, mentally ill, your brain tricks you so well into believing that you have always felt this way and that you will always feel this way. That is a lie. So take that. If anybody listening is going through something difficult, that is your brain lying to you. It's not going to last forever. I promise you. Things will get better. You will get through it, and you have to keep reminding yourself of that every single day.
I think that is such a comforting thought, but one that feels so unrealistic when you're going through a hard time.
Yes,
I think that's the
absolutely.
scariest part of a hard time is feeling like there will be no end to it. So
Yes.
I think that's beautiful advice. Is
Mm.
there Were there like quotes or mantras or things that you would repeat to yourself? And maybe that was one of them. I know in one of your podcasts, you talked about how this mental health journey that you've had has like caused you to suffer from these dissociative experiences almost.
Mm.
Are there things that you say to yourself to help you, as well as your nutrition and the things that you now know how to do to help you get through those?
Oh man, those are the most terrifying moments of my life. It's so hard. It's just, I think the mantra of this is not going to last forever is very, very, very helpful. And then over the years, I started understanding that these might be happening for a reason. So then I might, instead of feeling just super overwhelmed and terrified and wanting to turn away, sometimes I would ask myself, okay, is my body really stressed right now? Do I need to stretch and move? Am I in a situation or with people that are making me feel not like myself and are making me feel uncomfortable? Do I need to exit this situation? How can I take care of myself? Do I need to go to my room and do some breathing exercising? What does my body need? Do I need to scream? So sort of questioning and
Yeah.
turning inwards. But unfortunately, I just don't have a magic solution. That stuff is really damn hard. And the best thing I found was this is not going to be forever. This is not going to be forever. That's the best one for me.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
a good one.
another one I liked is I'm just another human, to kind of de-escalate the
Mm,
whole thing. I'm just
yeah.
another human. This happens to other people. I'm going to be okay. This is a common experience that others have also gone through. That's also super helpful because you can feel so isolated.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. If you are listening to this podcast, you are probably a fan of inspirational quotes. And if that's the case, then you should check out my book. I feel that it's a cute little retro book with each chapter being a different emotion and then quotes that can help you with that emotion. So if you're looking to support me or the show, if you need a cute little gift for a friend or just something to flip through when you're feeling down one day, then this book is for you. You can purchase it at quotesbychristy.com, which is my website, or the link will be in the show notes. Did you ever intend for your account on Instagram to have 3 million followers, or was that like super shocking to you?
Girl,
That's a
when I
lot.
when I first started, I used to have this diary where every month I would write how the project is going, and I recommend everybody do that because then looking back is just amazing. And I have this entry in 2019, and it says, "Just started my Instagram account. Oh my God, if I ever get 10,000 followers, that'll be the biggest achievement ever, right?" And now it's 2 million. But your brain gets used to everything. Like now I'm
It's
like,
crazy.
I'm at 3.4. Why am I not at 3.5 yet? You just
It's,
your brain, everything fades. And it just becomes a number. So no, I never intended it to be, and it's completely outside of the realm of I can't even grasp what that means, I think. It's
oh,
so yeah, I
yeah.
have no clue. I have no clue.
I mean, but it's funny you touched on that because I felt the same way with my account when it started growing. You would think, "Oh my gosh, I'm just so grateful that it's the size it is." And then all of a sudden the bar starts getting pushed a little further and further away. Has that been your experience?
Completely, completely. But I think after I hit 3 million, somehow I just disconnected a little bit from the numbers. I was like, okay, you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. But when it's growing and you're at the beginning, you get so, I mean, yeah, the bar keeps moving, as you're saying, the goalpost keeps moving and moving and moving. And it just shows you how the human brain works, is that there's
Yeah.
always going to be more. This concept of the hungry ghost, it's a concept in spirituality that says that we all have a hungry ghost inside of us that no matter how much you feed it is always going to be hungry, and that
Mm.
hungry ghost is hungry for external validation, physical objects, just like material things, and that's never going to fill you. So you have to understand that those kinds of validation, like the number of Instagram followers, yeah, it's cool and you're going to feel proud that you've built it, but it's never going to fill your happiness and your contentment. However, nobody believes that until they actually get to the millions and they're like, oh my God, it was real. But if you haven't
It's
gone
true.
to that point, you do not believe it. It's so funny.
It's so true.
Yeah,
So Jesse is here as living proof that you can have 3 million followers and it still won't feel like enough. So maybe just be
exactly.
happy with what you have.
And then when people told me that, I was like, "F you! Like you don't know
I
my
know.
life. You don't know what I'm gonna feel." But it's true, guys. It's true. As Nicole Kidman says, she says, "Don't forget that once you get to the top, there's nothing there."
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You talk a lot about the role of like dopamine in our lives, and it's interesting because social media gives that a lot to you, and I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
what makes people so addicted to it. Do you find a lot of like similarities between social media and the dopamine that gives us and that same dopamine that you talk about through glucose spikes maybe?
Yeah, for sure. It's very addictive. Dopamine is the pleasure hormone, right? And as humans, eating sugar or scrolling social media or doing illegal drugs are ways to get a hit. And it's
Yeah.
very addictive to the point where I sometimes, when I'm on Instagram for 2 or 3 hours in a row, because I'm fully in a rabbit hole, I start feeling really nauseous, like I would if I ate way too many cookies, right? It's that same kind of
Yeah.
just like behind your eyes, nausea, physical unease. Yes, it's very similar. It's everywhere. But unfortunately, I don't have social media hacks now. Although now you're kind of giving me an idea. Maybe I should
I was
come up
about
with
to
a social
say
media
there could
hack.
be a real future because I do feel like probably to a certain extent the way that you control that dopamine is similar in your brain, and maybe it might be easier with glucose because you can do that through nutrition, but I'm sure that there's a lot of ways that we can do that as well when we get in those rabbit holes on social media, which I think is like really plaguing our society.
That's a very good point. It's a massive plague. I mean, even me, I find myself sometimes after an hour and I'm like, what am I, how did I, why? It's so addictive. It's so difficult. I feel like I have much more self-control around sugar than I do around
Yeah.
social media. Yeah, big
Oh,
time.
100%. I think too, because it's so easy to recognize, like, oh, I ate too many cookies or I did too much of this.
Yes,
And with social media, there's still like this fine line, especially when it's your job too, of like, well, I have to be on it. And it's like, well, do you really have to be on it for like sometimes I get my screen like, oh, you were on online for 4 hours a day. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
it's tough.
And it's just like hard to catch yourself, I think, more so than what you eat, even.
And it's so new, right? We don't have yet the understanding of its impact. Like sugar's been around for longer and we know it's not good
Yeah.
for us. And
Yeah.
parents, but social media is brand new. And as you said,
Yeah.
it's a lot of people's work, so it's tough. I'm really hoping that we'll see so much change in the way we use these platforms over the next few decades because it's a poison. It is a
Yeah.
poison.
I agree. Well, back to your area of expertise, though. What advice would you give to people? You have some really fascinating hacks. And if you can just share a couple of those with us for those who aren't familiar, I just think they're so interesting and things that we can all implement into our lives, which I've tried, sometimes not as successfully as I've wanted to, but I have
Of
tried.
course.
And so, what is your advice for people who are looking to reap all of these benefits of balancing their glucose spikes?
First things first, have a savory breakfast in the morning built around protein. It can be eggs, it can be a Greek yogurt, it can be nuts, it can be leftovers from your dinner. Avoid at all costs eating something really starchy and really sweet in the morning, like oats with honey, like a toast and jam, like a fruit smoothie or fruit juice, and a sweetened yogurt. All of those are going to create massive glucose spikes first thing in the morning. And that's going to lead you to be completely deregulated for the rest of the day with inflammation and cravings and fatigue. And then it's 10 p.m. and you've eaten 16 cookies and you wonder how the heck you got there. It all
We've all
starts
been
with your
there.
breakfast. Yeah, totally. It all starts with your breakfast. So savory breakfast is the number one place to start if you want to start getting those benefits of steady glucose levels. Second thing I would recommend is before your lunch or your dinner, have a plate of vegetables as the first course of your meal. Eat the meal you would usually have. No, don't change it. Just add a plate of veggies at the beginning. And the reason we do this is because veggies contain fiber. And fiber is a wonderful substance. And when you have it at the beginning of a meal, it has time to coat your upper intestine and create a sort of protective mesh. That protective mesh then stays in place and prevents too many glucose molecules from the rest of the meal from going into your bloodstream too quickly. So you eat the same pasta or whatever meal that you're going to have with less impact on your glucose levels, therefore less creation of all those symptoms we were talking about. I think those are the two most important ones to start with.
I love it. And last piece, a piece of advice you would give to people who are struggling with their mental health right now or who are feeling like you did at your lowest.
Okay, few things come to mind. First, remember this is not going to last forever. Second, if you have the means and you can afford it, go to therapy. Uh, huge help. Find other people who have been through what you're going through right now and talk to them. And this ties back into the piece of it's going to get better. You're going to get through it. They will be your best mirror to show you that it gets better. And then all the boring stuff. Okay. So sleep. I know it's so
Yeah,
boring,
no
but
one
it's
wants to hear
so
it.
true. Listen, sleep. I'm going to say exercise. I know it's so boring, but listen, 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. First thing in the morning, you wake up, grab a coffee, whatever, go outside for 10 minutes. Just do that. You're going to get light in your eyes, which is going to make you feel happier. Your body's going to move, which is going to help so much your mental health. Try that. 10 minutes of just walking outside in the morning can have make a huge impact. And then, try to listen to yourself. And I find personally that my mental health gets worse when my boundaries are not being respected around me, or I get into these situations where I'm not protecting my space and I don't have agency over my life. So that difficult thing that you haven't been doing for a year, but you know you need to do, go do it. And hopefully that's going to help your subconscious improve a little bit. But mental health, many of us have been there. It does get better, but you do have to start as much as you can addressing some of the stuff going on in your life.
Amazing. Jessie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank
Oh,
you
thank you,
for
Christy.
all of the wisdom that you've shared here and on your page, and you've helped so many people really revolutionize their lives. So let everyone know who's listening and watching where they can go to follow along with more of your work, to learn more about this, as if this is the first time they've heard about it. I'm sure you're very interested. So she has lots more to share. Where can we go to follow and support you?
The best place is on Instagram, Glucose Goddess, and glucosegoddess.com. You'll be able to see my books, my recipe club, my supplement, etc. I have a whole universe waiting for you. So if you are in the market for some easy hacks that are going to help you feel so much better and get healthier as you age, not sicker, then please stop by and hopefully you'll find this interesting.
Amazing. Jessie, thank you again for joining us. To everyone
Thank you,
watching and
Christy.
listening, thank you for tuning in to The Shift. Don't forget to subscribe. Let us know what you think of the episode, and we will see you next time.